Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen Podcast by Eastman's. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Talk about being on the X.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 52 of the Wingmen Podcast. And I'm lucky enough today to have Beau Brooks with Higdon Outdoors and Power Calls on with me to talk turkey and get some pointers and just BS about hunting. Beau, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. I can't say enough how much I appreciate having you.
Well, I'm just happy to be here, and I love talking turkeys. So get an opportunity to talk about turkeys with someone that likes to hunt turkeys. I love doing it. So
yeah, no, I hear you there. It's that time of year, man. Have you had a chance to get out and get after birds early?
Yeah, not as much as usual, but already shot our birds in Florida. Went to Alabama the other day, got on some birds. About to head down to Georgia and then North Carolina, and it's usually the seasons are a little bit off this year. They pushed them back a little bit in the South, so I'm a little bit later than usual. So I didn't draw in Mississippi or any of that type of stuff, and public land got pushed back in Alabama, so I had to hunt private. So, and Georgia just opened, and so I've got to hunt a little bit and had a fun time doing it, but I'm really ready for the get out west and knock a few of these states down south out and hear some turkeys gobble.
Heck yeah, man. So you've got your Osceola bird out of the way in Florida. You got an eastern bird down in Alabama. It's interesting what you said about the states pushing dates back. That was when I had Dr. Michael Chamberlain on the podcast about this time last year. That was one of the things he and I were talking about the future of turkey hunting. Yeah. We don't necessarily see the impact that hunting has on turkeys here in Wyoming and in Montana. Our birds, they don't get as much pressure as those other states' birds do. And our birds' mortality is 100%, pretty much not 100%, obviously, but it has to do with winter and predators. That's what rules our turkey populations out here.
Absolutely.
So what he was talking about is pushing those dates back due to additive mortality through hunting. Those birds are just so much easier to kill early in the year.
Yeah. And so it's funny you say that. I don't per se think they're easier to kill earlier in the year. I really like hunting later, actually. But that's just my style of hunting. But I do think it's time for a change. I hunt the South down there. Man, it is hammered with people. Like, I came from out west, and it is completely different. The tracks are so much smaller of like public land. And I think that one thing that I'm happy they did is they've actually pulled the bag limits down a little bit. Like Alabama was 5, they pulled it down to 4, and Mississippi, I mean, they've and I even think that maybe they pull them back a little bit. I don't know. I'm not a biologist, obviously. But
well, that's been a famous line the last week and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know, man. All I know is that the biggest thing I think that a person can do to help is trapping. Honest to the good Lord, think that I moved down here to the South a few years ago. It's nothing like out west. There are raccoons and possums by the millions, and no one's trapping them anymore. You know what I mean? And so imagine that, they get into one nest. There's a chance she might lay again, but this is a talk for a different day.
No, man, I don't think so. And we can get back to some about who you are, but we're rolling on a topic that I think is important to talk about. And I don't think enough people truly understand, whether I think the big game guys get it, especially in the West when we're talking about predators and predation. And I think the waterfowl guys really get it with talking about nest predation and chick predation. But I don't think a lot of turkey hunters are really keyed into just how important predator management is.
Absolutely. And I think that another thing is the people that I know that do it are seeing direct results. You know what I mean? And so this is a good example. Out west, on the place I used to guide, they were killing about 1,500 coyotes a year out of a helicopter.
Wow.
And so we were seeing fawns seeing about every doe had two fawns, at least one, but most of the time two. And we were seeing just a bloom in our population. Did that mean there was no more coyotes? No, we still see coyotes all the time, but there's a natural order to things and there's a huge problem, I think, in this, especially the South, with this predation. Think about that though. That you get a trail camera down here in the South. Anyone that lives in the South, you'll see how many raccoons and possums come through every day. They come through every single day. Eventually, one's going to run into that nest, and they're going to, for sure, eat all the eggs. And if you get the right raccoon, it'll kill the hen as well.
Right. Right.
And that goes for coyotes too. I mean, trapping coyotes is important, but turkeys have all the odds against them. We've known that. And that's why they're so smart.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. And one of my statement said earlier about easier to kill is, I think it just has to do with that time of the year and their behavior and what they're doing, establishing dominance and pecking orders and all those things. They're a little more susceptible, I should say, to a good decoy setup and different strategies. And so I think what you said about pushing those seasons back and reducing bag limits, I think it's smart, because you've got to make up for the other variables that you're not controlling, which is predation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know enough to really speak on the pushing the seasons back. I've been taught up on it. And I still don't have a true stand on it. That's hard to say. All I know is I do know that I have friends and people I've met that are trapping and they're seeing direct results. And I definitely know that as hunters, we're getting more effective. TSS, decoys look exactly like turkeys. And I mean, the calling sounds probably a little bit better. And like we said, if we wanted
especially if it's coming from you, man.
I don't know about that, but and that's the thing, like that TSS, you can shoot them at, if you really wanted to, you could probably sit there and get in a pinch point. You're probably going to kill that bird even without a decoy. And so I think the bag limit thing, pulling it back a little bit, if you want to kill a few more turkeys, just get in the car and go to the next state over.
There you go.
Help out, pay for another non-resident tag so that it helps conservation.
Man, you hit the nail on the head with that. And it's easier said than done with gas at almost $5 a gallon, depending on where you are. But I completely agree with you. It's like you can do turkey hunts over a long weekend. Leave on a Thursday night, hunt, get to your spot. Hunt. If you're hunting the neighboring state, most of us can be in a neighboring state in a handful of hours. And
mostly about 5. I mean, most, that's doable. And I mean, if you really are worried about it, rent a Prius. I mean, I've hunted turkeys out of Ford Escapes.
There's a story that kicks around here around the Eastman's office about back in the old days when they were first getting started with the TV show that and Eastman's bow hunting journal, that Guy and Cameron Haynes hunted out of a Subaru Outback.
Oh, well, I believe that Cameron's from the land of the Subaru and I don't blame him at all.
That is too funny, but
I'll have to show you a picture. I've got a picture of a 6-point bull on my mom's Ford Escape. I shot when I was 17. I went to Idaho, went over there, called the bull in, shot him, packed him out, and took him home. And on the top of it was a 6-point bull.
Heck yeah, man! You got to send me that. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, let's back up a little bit. We jumped right into the deep end of the pool right off the bat, which is not a bad thing. But Beau, you are definitely one of the best turkey callers that I've ever heard. If you guys haven't seen Beau on social media and Facebook, Instagram, you need to check him out, because if you're learning how to turkey call or want pointers on turkey calling, just listening to what the things that you can do is pretty incredible. And I'll have you get into maybe some tips and pointers here shortly, but who is Beau Brooks, man? Where did you come from? Who are you?
Well, and that being said, guys, if you are learning how to turkey call, you look me up on social media. I have tutorials. So trying to teach everybody how to do what I'm doing and break it down and what it means. But as far as who I am, I'm Beau Brooks. I'm from a small town in Washington State, believe it or not. Don't hear that from many turkey hunters.
No, you don't.
I'm not just a turkey hunter. They call me the animal jukebox, the translator. As far as I've done like competition calling my whole life, I'm not as into it as I used to be. I really just love to hunt now, but I did in every species. So I grew up hunting my whole life. If any of you guys are elk hunt at all, you probably heard of my dad, Casey Brooks. Pretty well known in the bow hunting industry for shooting giant bulls, but I kind of always wanted to do my own thing. You know what I mean? Dad was super well known for his elk hunting accomplishments, and I loved elk hunt. And believe me, I loved elk hunt. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I hunt 30 days in archery season, every day I could possibly hunt. But turkey calling and hunting was so, I'm a bird nerd too, man. I just love having them. I've had pet turkeys my whole life.
Really?
Yeah, I do. And I've learned a lot from them, but it was something that my dad really didn't do. Him and I learned together. He actually went on a few turkey hunts before I was born, but didn't really do it. And then he took me on a youth hunt when I was 10 or 9 years old. And it was a elk turkey hunt. You know what I mean? We walked 18 and a half miles in a day and a half, hoofing it, calling, acting like we're elk hunting, man. It's real. And that's how I've learned how to hunt turkeys in every situation now, but that is my roots, man. Just goes right back to, honestly to elk hunting and Western hunting. And so being out there all the time like that, it just makes you such a great woodsman too. And it's such a blessing to grow up where we have so much public land. And honestly, West Coast has a lot of freaking turkeys. So
you're not the only one that said that. I had Baker Levitt on from Black Ruffle Coffee a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about his favorite place to chase turkeys is Oregon.
Yeah, it's mine too. Mountains, there's two different types of way to hunt turkeys in Oregon. Down in like the southwest corner, it's like it's the most turkeys I've ever seen in my life, honestly. Like, it's just incredible. You'll see 50 turkeys in one field, and it's just, and they're people's yards, they're everywhere. I mean, I'll hunt them down there, but I'm a mountain guy. I love getting up in the mountains, walking in deep, driving my car all over the place and finding elk horns while I'm out there. I got this thing I do. I throw elk horns when I find them because I got tons of buddies that are shed hunters, and I'll take a video of it and throw the shed. I always pick it up, but they always say, like, what are you doing? So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that, how easy it is to slip into elk hunting mode when you're turkey hunting out west, and I literally use the same rig for running turkeys as I do hunting elk. I don't wear a vest out here. Everything's like in in pockets, bino harness, backpack, everything's in a backpack. Cause you're going to be out. If you're going to commit to that, you could be out all day. You need to be able to carry.
You're walking behind gates, you'll be in like 4 miles.
Yeah.
That's where the birds start, and
yes.
And just because you're out west doesn't mean there's no pressure. I mean, I've seen it where there's six people at one gate. You know what I mean? And so, we've got to work out here too. It's not like we could just drive up in the mountains and randomly just get into turkeys. Like, you know where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. That if you're hunting those mountain birds, like you said, you get out of the farm bottoms or get out of the agricultural ground, and you start getting up in the mountains, man. That is tough hunting. Because you're covering miles and miles and miles just to strike a bird. And for me, a turkey vest doesn't cut it doing that. It doesn't ride well. It's not comfortable. I can't carry layers, that I need. I mean, it's the same thing.
Sitka vest that came out with is small. That's the one I can wear.
Yeah.
Because it's like nothing almost there. And so I like wearing that one, but before that I never wore a vest.
But leave it to a company like Sitka that's got Western roots,
Yeah.
to come up with something that you can use for dual purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And then I mean, even so bringing it back from mountain turkeys, there's a lot of mountain hunting in the South too. They're like Georgia starts Appalachia there, man, and that's why I'm so addicted to hunting Georgia. It's just like a hardwood version of home.
Cool.
You know what I mean? And so you can hike in, like get behind the gates, and I mean, I'm a mountain man, so like a lot of these guys will walk in, 300 yards off the road. Oh man, I got in there deep. I'll go 3 miles back in there. I mean, not even catch my breath because it's not high altitude. It makes me kind of feel like I'm Superman when I'm there. But there's days that it puts a whooping on you because it's steep.
Yeah. It's a lot of up and down in that country. Where I'm going to Iowa actually here in Minnesota here in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And same thing, in the part of Iowa that I'm going to be hunting, it's rugged country. It's that Mississippi River bluffs country, and it's up and down, and you don't have to go very far to wear yourself out.
No, it's slippery too, man. those rocks and stuff like that. I don't know, man. It's so cool though to be able to go across the country and see things and see how much of a crossover there can be. You know what I mean? A turkey that's up on a hill is usually a turkey that's up on a hill. I don't care where he's at, and that's where he's going to want to be. He's the king of that hill. You know what It's really cool, and I mean, I even do the same stuff for elk. I mean, so it's pretty cool seeing the crossover.
It is cool to watch how all those different skills and hunting tactics cross over. Being part of the Eastman's umbrella, I get teased all the time about, I say, turkeys are hunting turkeys can be a lot like hunting elk. If you're doing it, you can do it similarly. No way, and they get all, no. And it's like, no, they're quite similar in it. And you can apply some of the same tactics and strategies, but that's super cool. But so you work for Higdon Outdoor and Power Calls, right?
Yep.
What do you do there?
So I have many hats here. I was originally brought in to design. I actually owned my own call company a long time ago. It was called Brooks Custom Calls, and they brought me in here, and I've had a few offers through the years to work for different call companies. I just turned them down, but they said, Beau, come in here, help us with the turkey decoys we're going to come out with, and help us with and build all the turkey calls. I said, and then they said, you can be involved on the waterfowl side, because I'm a very avid waterfowl hunter. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see this. And I asked around to a bunch of my friends, and they're like, this is something that you can't pass up. And so for the first 2 years, I came in just doing that, building calls, actually started hosting the TV show, traveling all over, but they still allowed me to go back out west and guide from August to December. And so doing mule deer archery and rifle mule deer hunts and archery and rifle elk hunts. And then in the spring, I would disappear and go turkey hunting, but creating content in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
At the last year and a half, they finally got me here in Kentucky. And I've been a photographer my whole life. So they brought me in. I'm doing photography, videography. So I'm doing digital marketing, also helping oversee call manufacturing and every SKU. And I also build the turkey calls. I actually have a team helping me now. And, host a TV show, started that new series, Bow Hunting, and still get to guide. I said, if I'm going to work for you full time, I'm still taking 30 days off in September. I'm going elk hunting. So
nice.
Yep.
Nice. Good for you, man. That's a Western boy right there. You just, you can give me to live in Kentucky, but I ain't giving up September in the mountains.
Nope. There's no way you'll ever get me to stop elk hunting. It's in my soul. And I also told him the same thing about turkey hunting, but it goes along with my job here. So luckily.
Right. Well, you are a jack of all trades, man. That's pretty cool. I don't think it kind of plays into, you hear it all the time. You hear young guys or young people I want to get into the industry. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they pigeonhole themselves a lot of times. Well, I'm a photographer, or I'm a guide, or I'm this, or I'm that. And you just hit on like 6 or 8 different things that make you successful at what you do.
Well, I'll tell you, I can mop a mean floor. And being willing to do it and get into it. And like when I was guiding, I was also filming all my hunts. You know what I mean? And taking pictures for the clients and stuff like that. And it's just one thing I think about is, you're so lucky. Well, you make your own luck where everyone else is out. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love drinking beer, but I out partying and I was hunting. I was making sure I go to bed on time so that I was working, I was guiding so I could go hunting and then film and take pictures. And when I should be, my friends were out going, running all over the place, I'd go to bed so I could get up the next morning and make sure that I'm hunting, and so I've kind of slowed down now as much as far as my hunting goes because I've got obligations with work and stuff, but I still get to do it a lot. And so I mean, if I had to give any advice to someone that's wanting to get into the industry, like I get that question all the time. There's a lot of opportunities around. Just because you take one job, like say you started working in the warehouse, if you're hungry for it, you're going to start climbing. You know what I mean? If you're, you like you said, if you start guiding though, that's kind of a tough deal. Is you're going to probably stay a guide. You know what I mean?
Or end up owning your own outfitting business.
Exactly. But if you want to be in the industry, don't be afraid to mop the floors. Don't be afraid to do something that someone else doesn't want to do. Show that you're ready to keep moving up. And like, as far as the photography stuff, I was decent at it. I started when I was 16, but I'm like, screw it. I want to do this. I went out, saved my money, got a camera, a really good camera, and I created all the content for the next year for all of our turkey SKUs. And I'm like, this is what I can do. They're like, pull up a chair. This is your new desk. You know what I mean?
There you go. Man, you're spot on when you're saying you create your own luck. You create your own spots. And when you see successful people, that's not luck. That's hard work and dedication that got them there. And I don't care if we're talking about professional athletes, we're talking about, professionals in the hunting industry. I don't care what it is. If you see people that have achieved things at a high level, that's the product of hard work, dedication, long hours. I know a little bit about the content production side because that's what I do too, as the host of Wingmen. And the hunting is a small part of that. You go out, you're doing your hunting, and then when it's all done, you're still working, and you're working the whole time.
All night to the next week, and you're working on that one project that you started that day. And a lot of people think, oh, you get to go hunting all the time. Man, I can't tell you, it's really not what you would think it is as far as hunting. You know what I mean? Content creation is not going out there having a good time with your buddies. It's working.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you've run into this too, but a lot of your buddies, after a couple times of going along on content creation hunts,
they don't go.
They don't want to go anymore.
No, they don't.
It's like, oh, say that again, or hey, go stand over here, and you're directing, you're field producing the whole time, and some guys are like, yeah, that's cool, and other guys are like, nope, don't want anything to do with that.
Oh yeah. I'm like, hey, you call in 3 different birds in one day, and they're just out of camera view, or where they could shoot them all day, or they're not or they're not standing by a decoy or something. I'm like, I'm trying to get shots of this. Like, okay. And I've had buddies drive home, they're like, screw this. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You say that, and I was talking about that little Iowa trip I've got planned. One of the ways that I keep myself from not burning out on it is to do, because I'm going to hunt no matter what, whether it's tied to a paycheck or content production or contracts or whatever. It's taking those family vacations or taking that time to go do stuff that's just for you. when there's no obligation there, you know.
Leave the camera at home and have fun with your family or friends or whatever.
I would imagine that your trips back to Washington State in the fall to guide a little bit are kind of therapeutic.
They are. And I mean, I'm guiding, working from we wake up at 3 a.m. and if the bulls aren't bugling or I'm guiding, I'm going to have to go all night trying to get bulls to bugle in the dark for the next day, but it doesn't matter because I'm home, I'm in the mountains. I don't have to worry about taking a picture. I don't have to worry about what's going on. My cell phone gets shut off for that whole time, except for the Saturday that I go and check emails. You know what I mean? And it's a godsend. It truly is.
Yeah, it probably gets you through the rest of the year when the waterfowl and the turkey grind. Because I mean, like I said, live in that world, and you go from waterfowl in November, and it pretty much doesn't. There's not a lot of downtime, especially if you start mixing chasing snow geese. You go from waterfowl straight into turkey season.
Oh yeah, I start in October. The second I get done with elk guiding, October to January. There's a little bit of in between time on specs and snows, and then March 6th back into turkey mode.
Yeah.
The summertime, honestly, is the only time I really have, But then that's call tuning season.
Right.
We're jamming out in the basement, and then I'm also we're also editing everything from the year, and it's you know what though, I would not have it any other way.
Me neither. No, me neither, man. I don't want to sit here and sound like we're complaining, because I'm not complaining. I love what I do. I am blessed beyond measure to be able to do what I do, and I think you probably feel the same way.
Yep. The coolest part is all the people I get to meet. I get to go hunt with and go to meet and get to spend time with, and like that's to me, like I'm not huge. I don't really care about me shooting a turkey. Like even on my days off, my vendetta is challenging hunts. So like I want to go to public land and kill a bird here. Like Alabama, it's really tough. I need to knock that state off. But if it was just at home, like my fiance or my friends or whoever's with me, hey, let's take you in the morning. Let's go get you on a bird, or I do a few guided hunts in the spring for Leopold, and they bring me new people all the time, and I get to hunt with them and get to hear their story and just see them shake, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah. The getting new people involved, or getting people that don't do it all the time involved, and getting to see those hunts and those experiences through their eyes, through fresh eyes, is super, super rewarding.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. But so that is a cool story about how you got hooked up with them and involved with them. I guess the point of all that is you're hustling. You figure out what you want and go make it happen.
Yep. And sometimes you don't always know exactly what the end result's going to be.
Right.
Which I truly had no idea. I just knew this is what I wanted to do. Let's dive feet first into it and stay true to who you are and what you're doing, because that's another thing. Just be real, man, and it'll follow. People can see that from a mile away. So.
No, you're spot on, and people pick up on passion too. They get, man, this guy's on fire for this. That's what I want as part of my team.
Yep.
That's so cool. So cool. But so let's talk about turkey calling a little bit, because obviously there's lots of ways to kill a turkey. I say it all the time, turkey killing is easy. Turkey hunting is a challenge. And that's what keeps me coming back, is it's like no two scenarios are quite the same. Every bird's a little bit different. I mean, turkey's a turkey, whether he's in Florida or, Wyoming, but they all act a little bit different. They do some different things. Yeah. But getting started, talk about your turkey tutorials a little bit. What if you've got somebody that doesn't know anything about getting started in turkey hunting, what are you going to tell them?
So I usually go back to the basics, man. I want you to get a box call. So I think that's probably one of the most important things you can get. It's easy to run, and it's going to get you into turkey hunting. I mean, everybody that's hunted turkeys knows that you've killed turkeys with a box call. You know what I mean? It's amazing. If you're getting into, you want to take the next step and get into mouth calls, I urge people to get even if it doesn't sound that great, get a domed mouth call. As an elk caller, it's training wheels. You know what I mean? It gives that same exact spot every time. Doesn't mean you can manipulate it like all the other calls, but it'll get to where you can put it in your mouth. You can make a noise with it, and I'll just keep playing with that and making noises with it. And so like on my tutorials, I break down every sound. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I'm not going to go through on this podcast. One, I'm not going to go through how to run a mouth call. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, not expecting that.
No, it would take me too long. All I can say, guys, if you're starting out, one, watch the videos, but two, just make a noise with that thing, put it in your mouth, go everywhere with it. You're going to probably gag when you first use it. You're probably going to have discomfort. It's going to tickle. It goes away, I promise. And for some of you, it may not, but I'm telling you, after about a week of doing it, you're going to start making noise. What's so funny is my little brother got a mouth call before me when he was a kid, and he's making noise over there, and I'm looking at him, and I mean, I can do it with my voice. And so I'm like, hey, Dad, give me a mouth call. And he gave me one. I couldn't make a noise with it for like 2 weeks. Man, and I finally started making noises with it. And as I started making noises with it, you know, I'm obsessed though. 3 hours a day, every day as a kid. Mom hated me. My little brother hated me. And my little brother quit calling because he just couldn't even stand the thought of listening to it. So that's what it takes to get to that next level. Once you get to where you're making noises and you can shape that sound, I challenge you to get a higher quality call, if that makes any sense. So like the calls that we make, like Woodhaven and some of the higher end calls out there are going to have rasp, or some of the other ones aren't. A lot of let me see here. This is a good example.
Give us some examples. That'd be great. That way guys can head over to the website or find them in a store and they can check it all out and they know what they're looking for.
This is a coyote howler, but this is very similar to what people use. Like they sell for just a basic turkey call, and it goes. You hear that a lot, right? So you take a step up to a call that's got overhang and got some rasps. You can really accentuate it. So what's happening there on these mouth calls, and I remember like it was yesterday, the first time I ever threw a call in that had rasp. I was hunting with Jay Scott down in Arizona, and we were down there hunting, and Jay had a used call, and I heard him using it, and I'm like, said, Jay, I need to try that. And at that point, I had been running a lot of primos. You know, we grew up on the West Coast, lots of primos. We did not have good turkey calls. This is the first back east call I'd ever tried. And I yelled with it one time, and it went. I'm like, wow, that sounds way different than anything I've ever run. And then I started looking up videos, heard Grand Nationals for the first time, listening to Billy Yargus, Scott Ellis, all these amazing callers. And I go, holy cow. So Dad and I went to NWTF when I was 17, went to the Grand National Convention, and I heard Jim Pollard sat in front of me and he yelped like that. The first time I ever heard it in person, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, because I thought at the time I was a good turkey caller. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm a good turkey caller. I heard him and I go, oh my gosh, I've got so much work. I took all the money I had saved up. I took it, like, give me all of your mouth calls. I want them. Went home, practiced for probably a year. So we come back through Grand Nationals again the next year. And I actually competed that year. Didn't do worth a dang. I messed up on one of the calls, but I went out and I called those turkeys that I used to hunt. I used to hunt this hunt every single year. It was a youth hunt. I took some youth with me. because I wasn't old enough. And I mean, I was too old at that point. So I went out there, and that was the first thing I learned, a front end yelp that was set me apart. And I could cluck and purr and stuff, but I did that front end yelp. Those turkeys that I used to call out for 2 hours that were on these properties, I couldn't never get them to cross. And they would finally do it after a few hours in my lap in minutes. I'm like, holy cow. I didn't think at first it would make a difference. I'm like, there's something to this. And so now I get on the phone. My friend Aaron Warbritton from the Hunting Public, he's an amazing caller. And Aaron, I'm like sending videos every day to Aaron, to Jimmy, and my Scott Ellis came hunting with me, and I'm sending it to Scott. And I'm like, I gotta learn how to do all this. And like, so I learned how to make front ends on a V cut. I learned how to do side yelping. I learned all these different things. It's what I call a grab bag. Do you have to have a grab bag to kill more turkeys? Absolutely not. You can kill turkeys by sitting and waiting for them. You can kill turkeys by just going. Timing is everything with turkeys, but having something like having all these different sounds, and that includes a box call, that includes a slate call, having different sounds that having different calls that achieve different sounds can be the difference between killing that bird that's locked up out there at 150 yards. Is sometimes you'll just hit that exact note that he wants to hear, and he'll be right in your lap.
I was hoping that you'd give us a rundown like that, dude. I was going to ask for it. That's so you guys listening just got a taste of what I've seen on social media, what I've watched with Beau, and why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I think you bring a fresh perspective to calling. And like you said, it's easy to grab a call and and get it done. You can kill a lot of birds doing that kind of thing, but taking it to that next level is, man, that is so cool. So you said something, the first time you blew a call with overhang. Can you explain what overhang is?
Let's see here. Let me grab one of these calls so you can really see it. This is my favorite here. Let me get it. So this is something that most Southern boys know about, but not all. This is a Beau Brooks signature series. This is the one I hand make. I've been making it since Brooks Custom Calls. And it's actually a bat wing. Bat wings have just a barely little bit of overhang. It's like a point of an arrow. It points over, and where that point hangs over is where your rasp comes from. So if you don't have it, I'll put it upside down. It's clean. It doesn't have any rasp. But if you do have it, it's got full rasp. So in like a call, like a V cut, it's got 3 things hanging over. So it's got 3 sides. And so in that case, it's going to be more raspy than even this. And so that's why I like using a bat wing so much, by the way, is because it's got those openings and I can do everything on it. A V cut's really good for cutting and yelping, but anything else is, I have a tough time with it.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, yep. I've run into the same thing with that. When with the V cuts, the more overhang that there ends up, the fewer sounds I can produce on it effectively.
And that was one of the hardest things I ever learned how to do. Actually, I'm pulling this one apart right now. Was you hear in all of mine, like we'll just talk about that real quick. Is that front end. And when I say front end.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to ask about.
So it's you hear that front? Most people on a V cut or any call is, you know what I'm saying? But having that 2 note, you'll hear it on a box call. And that gives the realism to the sound because it's not all rasp all the time. And so that gives you realism. What you got to do if you want to achieve that, which, guys, it takes time to learn how to get a front end. Like I was saying, it took me probably 6 months to a year to even hit it the first time. You got to take your tongue back on that call. You got to pull it back, tip of your tongue. present the air properly. And so I try and put it over the roof of my mouth, and you're going to just want to hold that sound. Hold that sound. And once you get that, the rasp is easy. You just drop your jaw. So that's your lesson on a front end yelp. There's one other way to get one, and it's a rollover yelp. You push on the right side of the call at the tip of your tongue on like a bat wing, and you get a key. This call's getting a little raspy for it. You're going to hit that key, and you're going to drop your jaw.
You know what that sounded like when you first did that? Yeah, it sounded like a cow elk.
Yep, exactly, exactly. And so that's one thing. I mean, I'm up on the World Elk stage, and people talk to me, you can do all these different sounds. I'm like, it's from turkey calling, man. I'm telling you, I've learned how to manipulate a call so much further. It's or you know what I mean? And so compared to all sorts of different, like 13 different sounds that you have to learn how to present air, it's really cool, And in some ways, elk calling has taught me more about turkey calling. I mean, about turkey calling. So, it's really cool. Just the mouth call can achieve so many different things, and just how you place it and how you use it.
So, on an everyday turkey hunt with Beau Brooks, you're probably going to rely pretty heavily on a mouth call, I'm betting. But what else is in your arsenal?
Man, so this is what I don't leave home with. I don't leave home without my box call, and I kill a lot of turkeys with a box call. You know what I mean? It is not something, and I am not gonna, and it helps me not ruin my mouth calls because I'm trying to locate with it or whatever. I also, believe it or not, don't leave home without a goose call, and I use a goose call for a raven. I can do it with my voice, but if you use that raven for a crow, it's so loud, it travels, and I use it to get in tight on gobblers. I always take a strutter for the most part. Sometimes I'll take a jake, but I always have a male bird for my decoy setup, and I always have one hen with it. I always like those two at least. My favorite setup of all time is a strutter, feeder hen, and a laydown hen. That's my favorite. If I could have everything I want, but in some cases you don't. And so I don't like hunting with just a hen. What I find out with hunting with just a hen is I get them out there past a decoy, and they'll strut it 100 yards or 60 yards. And sometimes they won't come all the way in. But if you have a male bird, if they see it, a lot of times they're going to either come in or they're going to leave. So
it's interesting that you say that, because I've just made some posts talking with different guys, and I just made a Facebook post the other day talking about decoys and asking guys, what their preferences are about decoys. And I wrote a blog based on my experiences the last few years of different things. I try not to, and it can't always do it, but I want your thoughts on this. I try not to set up where a bird can strut out there at 100 yards or 70 or 80 yards. I literally try to use topography and terrain to the point where if that bird commits and comes looking for me, when he starts looking, he's in range. That's
a great point. And if you have the option to do that, that is perfect. Logging roads is really tough. They pop out on it. And like down here, there's a lot of places that you just don't have it. Like mountain birds, man, the reason I like using a decoy for mountain birds is they come over the top of that hill. Instead of going like this all freaked out, they come in full strut and beat up the decoy at 10 yards. And so, can you kill them without it? Yeah, using topography. And I'm telling you, that's part of being a woodsman. And honestly, elk hunter too, or any, you know what I mean? It's just being a hunter, getting that. I love it. I love having a little crest of a hill in between me and that bird, or I like to be, that being said, for everybody that's listening, I like to be at the same height or above a tom. I don't really like to be below him unless it's like a crest of a hill and I'm right at the edge of it. So he has to just pop his head up.
Yeah, they come over and they start looking over that backside of that hill. I've done that.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, man. It's like either on the same level or above.
They'll come right up.
Yeah, they'll come right up to you. But getting them to come down, it's like, and it's weird because you'd think getting a bird, he has the advantage, especially if you've got a strutter there. If he's coming downhill, he's got the advantage. Yeah. But it's just easier to pull him uphill.
I don't know what it is, but they just come uphill like it's nothing. Coming downhill, they can be fired up and they'll do it, but it's really been a lot harder. I had Mark Drury with me one time, and I'm like, there's a valley in between me and this bird, and the bird's up on the other ridge, and we're right here calling. And I was talking with Mark. I said, I'm telling you, these mountain birds, man, they come up, and he's going to come right behind us. He wants to get above us and come right. We need to get up higher. We didn't have time. We sat down. He comes down the hill just a tad, hits it, and walks right around, and then goes straight up and right above us. And I'm like, oh, man, gobbling at 10 yards behind me, and Mark's down there below me at 10 yards in front of me, and he'd have to shoot over my head. And we're like, and he goes, gone. And it's just, and you'll learn your stride. Any turkey hunter will figure out what works for them, but it's just, there's little things like that. I learned that actually from obviously years of turkey hunting, but remember first time someone said it to me, Scott Ellis was hunting with me, and Scott, amazing turkey hunter. And Scott goes, he's like, we got to get up there at the same level as him. I did that, and that's pretty good. Yeah, you're right, man. That's exactly what we need to do. And like, that's awesome. And so little things like that.
Little things like that. Like you said, being a woodsman, being a student of the woods, a student of hunting, you pick up on those things. I've had birds do the same thing where they come around the head end of a valley, and I'm like halfway down, and I've literally had them standing above me on rim rock, gobbling at me, like, and they're 40 yards behind me, but they're straight up over my head, standing on a piece of rim rock, looking down at me, and it's like, so it's just funny. It's just funny how that works. But that's interesting to get your take on that, because like I said, I've had some tough encounters the last couple of years with decoys, with birds that see us. It doesn't matter what it is, like a strutter or a jake or a pair, and they're just like, nope, don't think so. Yeah, they've been beat up, they've been beat on, and public land is another one that's happened a lot to me on, where they'll come in and they'll see that decoy, and if there's a strutter or a jake decoy with it, I've seen them, they shuffle their wings, change body posture, completely changes, head changes color, and they turn and walk off. And it's like,
the one thing
that's frustrating.
One thing I will say is, if they do that, then you got tomorrow. You've learned, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm usually going to default to, using that setup. But if they're doing that, then you're in a great position to go pick the decoys up, slip in there, because he still wants to find that hen usually. Yep. And you get around there and have him come looking for you, because that's a great tactic, getting him to come look for you, get his attention, shut up, and he'll come looking.
No, so. You're absolutely right. I agree. One of the birds I killed last year was in a river bottom in Montana on the Yellowstone, actually, on public land.
Yeah.
Heavily hunted public land.
Yep.
And this bird gobbled one time.
Yep.
And it was right before a spring thunderstorm came through.
Oh, yeah.
I located gobble. He gobbled at me, and then I yelped a couple times, and he answered me, and I didn't hear a peep from that bird. And I remember the camera guy at 45 minutes in, camera guy looks at me, he's like, how long are we going to sit here? And I said, well, what else do you have to do this afternoon? It's a beautiful day. Let's just sit here and see what happens. We don't have there's no time constraints on us. And we sat there, and it was like 90 minutes later. I literally just got done kind of scratching the leaves, and I purred a little bit on a pot call. and looked up, and he's at 20 yards standing there looking at me over one of those little berms that we were just talking about.
Yep.
He never even saw the decoys. The decoys were off to the left, and he was right in front of me, had echolocated me, just pinpointed me, and just slipped in totally quiet, and just was in range. And I said, he went behind a big cottonwood tree, gave us opportunity, me to get the gun up, get the camera on, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we got him killed. But it was like,
I
wonder how many birds like that take that long. How many of those do you walk away from?
I'll tell you one thing. This is so awesome that you brought that up. Everyone thinks when they associate Merriams, they're thinking dumb birds, gobble all the way to the gun barrel. When they get pressured, honest to the Lord, they turn into Easterns, because that's how Easterns are. Gobble once or twice, and then they're in their lap after a little while. So I don't know how to explain it. Like there's patience kills more turkeys than anything. Getting in a spot, if he's gobbling or whatever, just give him time. Because a lot of times he's not going to be able to take it. And so knowing where you're at is important too. So that's really heavily hunted public land. We have some of that at home that I used to actually guide on. I worked for a guy, and man, it was not like normal Merriam turkey hunting. I walked these poor guys every day that I was taking at like 12 miles a day. They were not ready for it. They're just out to get a Merriam. We ended up killing that whole season. I hunted probably 20 something days. We ended up only getting 6 birds. So, I mean, just to give a little perspective, like they can get really smart really quick. And so, my rule of thumb, when they're not pressured though, if they're not gobbling, let's go find one of those.
Yeah, same thing. If I'm on ground I know hasn't seen a lot of pressure, let's run and gun. Let's cover ground. Find an aggressive bird that wants to play, that wants to commit.
Yeah,
it's just it's a cool experience.
It is, and that's it. But if you're on a place that's got a lot of pressure, that's getting hunted a lot, patience is your friend, man. And that is from Florida to all the way up into the Pacific Northwest. I mean, anywhere in the country, that having that patience and getting in a good spot and knowing you're in a good spot and honestly making realistic sounds. And honestly, the other part, I get off on tangents, obviously here.
No, you're good. This is gold, man.
But when I say being realistic, doesn't mean get out there and go, bah, 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 ka, ka, ka. Just because I could do all of that doesn't mean that's what you should do. If everything I do, I want to do it with purpose, with emotion. So if I'm on a really high pressure bird, and then looking at my phone and saying, you know what? I'm not going to call for 15 minutes. Let him think about that for a little bit, because that bird knows where you're at. He hasn't forgotten. And so, I'm telling you, this works from Florida all the way to the top of the country. It sounds stupid, but I'm telling you, that's what I'll do. I will call, and then I will force myself to wait. I'll sit there because I love to call, but I'm like, let's just make him think about it a little bit, and a lot of times you'll hear, he'll be right there. And and scaling up your call isn't a bad thing either. If it's not working after a little while, you've been sitting there all day, but you're being purposeful with it, cut and yelp at him. Shut her down. Let him think about that for a while, and that could be just a last thing to break him. So.
No, everything you're saying is so spot on with, I'm sure just not my own experiences, but with a lot of people out there listening to this going, man, that makes total sense. I think about the last handful of Merriams we've killed here in Wyoming, all public ground, all DIY stuff. Birds are getting pressured, and the last couple that I've had success on is exactly what you're talking about. Yep. Gobble a little bit, and it's like they're gobbling. Are you still there? About every 15 to 30 minutes, they'll gobble, and and then they're quiet, and then all of a sudden, like you said, you hear that drum.
You know they're alone. After late in the season like that, they're alone. but they're just getting hammered, man. And every person's going to walk up there and hap, 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 hap. He's going to gobble. Hap, hap, hap. He doesn't gobble. Okay, I'm going to walk down there. Hap, 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 hap,
Blow him out.
Blow him out.
Yep.
Be purposeful with your calling, man.
Yep.
And
another thing that I found out in the West is sound travels so much better out here that the birds sound further away than they really are.
Yeah, it does. It travels really well. Man, it depends on where you're at. Sometimes you'll hear him and you're like, oh crap, he's right there, and he'll be far, or he'll be across the canyon. And other times you'll hear him and he'll be right there.
Yeah, it is funny.
What gets me is Florida. If I get one to gobble, I have learned sit down, because that stuff is so thick there. It's like, holy cow. Like every time I've ever tried to go around the corner, like I'm hunting Merriam's or something, he's standing right in the road. You're like, yeah, it's know where you're at, man, because it's, the hills travel different than the flatland, man. Like I've got some cool video this year. I'm sitting there and I heard one off in distant. I'm like, oh man, what is that? And I look out in the field and I see him out there, and he's just out there going, pow, pow, and I can't hear him. It's not windy. He's just gobbling his head off in the middle of this field. It is not traveling to me at all. It's incredible. And so, and that's what blind calling comes in. There's birds in the area. You may not be able to hear him. He could just be down in a little creek down there. He could be over the hill. He could be coming. It's pretty amazing. So that's just, when you think you're going to stand up, give it another 15 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, that is so true, so true. And that bird I was telling you about I shot in Montana had 4 different pellet sizes in him. He had my number 9 TSS. He had like an old lead number 4 in like his right leg, and he had a copper plated like 6. And then he had a flight stopper from Federal Premium, a piece of flight stopper lead in him too. And I was shooting straight 3-inch number 9 Federal Premium TSS. And I got him home, started breaking him down. I'm like, holy smokes, man. He was old. I mean, he was old. He'd been around the block. He'd seen it. Biggest spurs I've ever seen on a Merriam's bird. He looked like an Eastern. I mean, he had like 2-inch spur. He broke one off, and the other one was an absolute hook. I was like, I've never seen that on a Merriam's ever, but that's the only bird I've ever killed that lived in a river bottom too. Yeah,
mountain birds, they not very often. The biggest I've ever seen were 1.5 inches.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's an old bird. Doesn't it feel rewarding though after you get a bird like that? That bird means more to you than all the. And then I love it when they come in fast, but it means a lot. So
yeah, no, it does. It's one that you remember. You just remember those hunts because you worked so hard to kill those birds. And yeah, I hope everybody gets that experience at least a couple times turkey hunting, where like you said, the ones that come bum rushing in, and those are fun, man. But man, those ones that you work for and earn, those are rewarding.
You know them, man. You get to know them, and even for someone like me that travels all across the country and only spends a few days in each spot, you get to learn. You get the chance to. It's really cool to get to hunt with other people and learn, because I learned that from a lot of different people. Like, no, that bird's going to come in. Really? You think so? Are you sure you don't want to get on another one? No. And then all of a sudden he's there. And so that's the ballad of hunting, man.
It
Always
is.
Keep learning.
Yep,
I don't care how good you think you are. There's something that someone knows, and every bird is different. And just try and go in with an open mind.
No, man, that is so true. It's funny, I grew up in Michigan. Listeners probably know that about me. And I grew up way up north. We didn't have turkeys. We had to travel into the Lower Peninsula to hunt turkeys. Yeah. And you had to learn, and didn't know what you're talking about. I remember going to expos and listening to Matt Moret and listening to turkey guys talk about Walter Parrott, talking about all these things about hunting turkeys. That's how you learn. Yeah. And dude, I bet it took me 3 or 4 years before I actually called in a longbeard, and killed it.
Yep.
And it's so hard. So you take that experience hunting Easterns and you get pretty good at it. So you're filling all your tags, and you're helping other buddies kill birds, and you're like, yeah, I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. And then you go to someplace else like Tennessee and get your butt kicked,
Yep.
It's
Just one for some reason, one day could be the most beautiful day. The woods are dead and they just don't gobble.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere you go is different. I mean, it's Tennessee's so different, up to Michigan's so different, to out west is so different. And there's a lot of constants there, but trying to learn from each one of those will make you a turkey killer, not a turkey caller or a turkey hunter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And that's getting amped up to go back to Iowa and hunt Minnesota a little bit too while I'm there. It's like I'm stoked because I don't get to hunt Easterns much anymore. And so it's kind of fun, but man, I've got to change how I do stuff. It's like put the call in your pocket, take it out of your mouth after you call a little bit, put it in your pocket and wait. Like you said, wait 15 minutes. It's just, it's so different.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I love hearing Easterns gobble, but I mean, it's just a part of it. My heart's in the mountains, man.
No, I'm with you. You start hunting turkeys out here, and it's so similar to hunting elk. Like you said, you get to run and gun, you cover 10, 12 miles in a day, and it's just fun. It's a great time of year to be in the woods. Like you said, you find shed antlers, you maybe pick some mushrooms,
Exactly.
Can't beat it. Beat it.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's super cool, man. But we've been on for quite a while and covered a lot of ground, man. And I sure appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to learn more about hunting turkeys, about calling turkeys, Beau is your guy. And we will try to include a link in the description or whatever we can do, Beau, to get people headed over to see your tutorials. In the meantime, check him out on Facebook, check him out on Instagram, check out your YouTube channel that Beau hunts, those YouTube videos, Beau hunts, those things are great, man.
Beau hunting. Yep. It's
Beau hunting. That's what it is.
It's on Higdon Outdoors YouTube channel. And I just can't thank you enough for giving me a chance to come on here and talk about what I love, man. It's such a cool opportunity to get to talk to someone that loves it just as much as I do. And it's actually got the perspective of being out west and doing both. There's a few of us like it that love to hunt turkeys out west. So
yeah, buddy. Well, Beau, I always shut down with close it out. Try to close out every podcast with a question. And I know you're an avid waterfowler as well. So if you're only going to be able to hunt one bird one way for the rest of your life, what's it going to be?
Oh man. Can I have two? That would be that. No. Man, it's definitely mountain turkeys, but they better give me some tags in a lot of states.
I hear you. No, I hear you. I want one in Montana. I want one in Oregon, one in Washington, one in Wyoming. Yeah, you name it.
Yeah, and my number two by far is hunting widgeon on the Pacific Northwest. So they're pretty close.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Well, we'll have to have you back on after duck season or during duck season next year. We can talk about ducks and talk about duck calling and goose calling, because power calls and Higdon Outdoors are a staple in the outdoor space when it comes to waterfowl and turkey, and you guys are killing it. Getting back to the brand a little bit before I let you go, without tipping your hand to too much, what do you guys have in the process? What do you guys have new coming out this year?
Man, we've got
out there right now for guys to go look at.
Well, we're coming out with some new calls for next year. A lot of new calls. It's going to be awesome. As far as we actually came out with a new blind, it's for waterfowl hunting. It's called the Versa blind. It is a completely universal panel style blind, but you can use it in the water or land. It has adjustable legs. You don't have to have bars in between it. Made in OptiFade. It's pretty dang cool.
I'm assuming that's on the Momarsh side.
Momarsh, yep. And so we own Momarsh. We just acquired Clone. We have the Clone. It's pretty dang cool for snow goose hunting. As far as turkey stuff goes, I've got a new product I'm coming out with next year that is going to blow the socks off the industry. So it's going to be pretty amazing. So we'll have to have a conversation next year about it.
Heck yeah, man. No, I'd love to have you back on and talk about that. And we can talk about a lot more than that, but good luck on the rest of your hunts this spring, Beau. And dude, I really appreciate your time coming on and teaching us all up on turkeys.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, man. You have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, buddy.